Welcome to the Irregular Expression Irregex podcast, where we gather and share wisdom from leaders across various fields. This podcast is sponsored by Density Labs, the leading IT staff augmentation service company. Today, our guest is Poya Osgouei. He's the founder and CEO of Modern GTM. He specializes in go-to-market strategies for B2B companies. Welcome, Poya. How are you doing today?
Fantastic. It's Friday. I'm in a good mood. We closed a couple of deals this morning. I'm healthy and I'm with you, Federico. What else can I ask for?
You got me when you said it's Friday, right?
I 100%, where I'm at, it's been really sunny and really good. In about 2 hours, it's going to start raining. So after this, I'm going to go on a nice walk. So I'm going to enjoy the sun. So anyway,
Enjoy the sun before the rain comes.
exactly.
Great. So it's great to have you here. It's we've been doing this podcast for a while. I've been learning a lot from you. You know your podcast, your Uncharted podcast, right? So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the Uncharted podcast, I've been doing it for 4 years. We last month was our 4 year anniversary. We've done a little over 200 episodes, and I've always focused on quality. Like I've always just been really curious. I've had a really dynamic childhood. Like I've lived in a lot of different places, and I just know that's influenced a lot of who I am today. And we forget sometimes with buyers, with colleagues, like right? Like when you peel back the onion, like they've had experiences growing up that have shaped them, and have had a result on who they are. So the point I'm trying to make is over the years, I've met so many great founders, executives, business people that I'm like, I'd love to, like just scratch the surface and get them on the podcast to learn a little more about them. And it's just become a really authentic way, at least for me, to build a relationship and have an asset to tell the story of some amazing people and frankly, learn in the process, right? So if there's something I don't know, it's become a really good way rather than paying someone for consulting to be like, hey, come on the podcast so we can talk about this. And I learn indirectly as well. So
Right, you learn and you also share the knowledge, and it's also fun, right?
it's also fun. And you get to learn from other people's experiences, right? So if I can accelerate my learning, why not?
So I wanted to ask you about what drove you to choose political science and business administration at Chapman University, and how that shaped your career.
Yeah, so we're going back. We're going back to the back all the way. So look, growing up, so I'm originally Iranian, okay, and we've lived in a few different places, but I would say like my hometown, where I consider like my pivotal moments as a child, is in a place called Tustin, California. It's in Orange County, and it's in Southern California. And I was just so lucky. Like we were not like the richest family, but I was lucky in that I was able to grow up in like a very safe neighborhood. Like my core group of friends to this day we're still connected with, which my wife and some of like my friends in the Bay Area are like, are you crazy? Like I've been able to like grow with like my childhood friends, right? We've gone through college together. I've stayed in touch. Everyone's getting married. A lot of them are having kids now. So it's just been a blessing, right, to have that. But to answer your question, I, in high school, became really competitive. I was actually a horrible student, horrible person in middle school, but it was very fortunate to have one or two teachers like really tell me to like, hey, step it the freaking up. You have so much potential. And in my sophomore year of high school, it just turned around completely. So I became really competitive, and I always wanted to go to UCLA. Always, like that was my dream school. And I still remember it's one of those moments where I look back and we were at a lacrosse game, and in the US in March, everyone usually March or April, everyone around this time actually, everyone gets their like um, acceptance letters or rejection letters. And I remember the day to this day. It was like a lacrosse game. We're seniors. We were like watching and supporting some of our friends, and everyone had gotten their acceptance or rejection letters like a couple of hours earlier. And everybody got rejected and we were laughing about it except one person, and he's become one of my best friends. His name is Mitch, and I absolutely adore him. But at that moment when you're 15, 16, you're like, oh my god, why you, why, why not me? So I look back at that moment, and I'll explain and bring this back forward. And I was so angry, to be honest, for a little while, right? And then I ended up going to Chapman, and I'll explain why I picked Chapman. But the reason I'm bringing this all up is, now that I look back, I'm so grateful. Not that I don't want to go to UCLA. I think there's amazing people that have gone to UCLA and have done amazing things. For me at that time, it really worked out that I went to Chapman because I've met some amazing folks. I was able to get a really good scholarship, which meant I graduated debt free, which is huge in itself, right? Not being in debt out of college. But uh, looking back, like, it was just a redirection, right? And you can't really see those things at the moment. You're really pissed off. But I've learned to, like, just trust my gut, my faith, and just keep pushing, right? Have the courage to keep freaking pushing, because sometimes it's just a redirection. Um, and
Why
anyway.
were you angry? For the sheer rejection?
No, so I Orange County, for anyone that's like grew up there, is a very affluent neighborhood, right? Like, most there's a lot of diversity, but a lot of the folks I worked with, like, their parents really supported them, right? So my background is, I'm Iranian. My parents escaped. They came here. They immigrated. To this day, my parents don't really speak English. They never, like, unfortunately, like, meshed well with the American culture. They loved us, they supported us, they gave us. But I was always like, all my siblings and I were always the ones that, like, we just had to figure out it on our own, right? So in the summers, as like my friends went on these like amazing vacations and whatnot, like, I was literally working 40 hours a week, right? Every week, I was working at Office Max, like selling printers, ink, different things. But, like, I was always like, why can't I be as fortunate as some of my friends in my group and go to Hawaii or go on some of these like trips to Mexico and whatnot? So it's some of my insecurities, right? So, like, the reason I was angry is like, well, why does it have to be that person and not me, right? What did I not do that they did, right? So, um, but again, looking back, like, I'm stoked as hell for my friends. Like, when they succeed now, I'm literally their biggest cheerleaders. I've learned, like, to empower them. Um, People that have done a lot for me in my career, my colleagues, you'll be surprised how often I pay it forward. I was just thinking about this, reflecting this over the last couple of days. In the last 3 months, I've helped 12 past colleagues get a job. Right. So now, like,
Wow.
it's a completely different story. Right. But back then, again, you're a child, you're jealous, you have your insecurities. But fortunately, for the most part, I've been able to overcome some of that.
Right, right. I had those, childhood friendships that are competitive.
Yeah,
we
exactly.
we love each other, but we're competitive. Super competitive,
100%.
and it it is a good thing until it isn't. Right? There is a threshold where it is not healthy anymore. Right?
And it's envy, right? Like, it's very common. It's a sin, right? You get jealous of the other person, and it's so easy. This is like, if there's one thing I've learned over the last couple of years, is we're so good as humans of showing, like, the perfect moments, the reels, and it affects you, right? Like, we have these giant tech social media companies that, like, are incentivized to keep you addicted to your phone. And frankly, like, last year, November, December, I was so depressed. Like, when I'm on Instagram, I don't care. When I'm on Facebook, I don't care. Like, go have fun, I'll go have fun. But for some reason, LinkedIn lately has really made me, like, bring back some of those scar tissues, because you see people's career, they're like, oh, I'm killing it, I'm doing this, and I'm like, dude, I'm really struggling. Like, I'm having a really hard time. Like, what are you doing that I'm not doing? So what I'm trying to say is, like, it's a work in progress, right? Like, there's some days I'm like, like, this other person's success is, like, bringing me down. So the thing I've learned, actually, which has been awesome, I added this LinkedIn blocker, which blocks my feed. So I still use LinkedIn, but I literally only use it to see my network, connect with people, message with people. Like, I don't see the feed anymore, which is literally, my happiness over the last 3 months has shot through the roof.
Right. I haven't thought about that. Yeah.
I'm telling
The
you,
um,
huge difference.
the I think that the competition is good because it shows you where you can go. Like
Yeah,
uh, you know, uh, if somebody achieve whatever it is, right? Then you can get there, right? But then I believe that the competition it becomes within yourself, right? It's where are you, and and where can you be, right? And pushing yourself to get there, right?
yeah, 100%, 100%.
Yeah,
Um,
because that gives you resilience. If you fail, it's you and the world, right? Um, it doesn't matter, you can keep pushing it, right? But it's
100%.
you, and your insecurities to the world. Then every single mishap becomes, you know,
Something else.
yeah, yeah. It can get into it can get you depressed, as you mentioned, right?
100%. It's and even for me, like between us, like I've learned not to add to it, right? Because what ends up happening is like I've been very fortunate. I work hard, but I've also been lucky. I've been very blessed. But I go on these trips sometimes, and I used to like literally like highlight every little thing I do on these trips, like every second, every photo. But then I thought about it. I'm like, there's so many people that don't have this privilege and this opportunity that I do. So why? Like, what's the point? Why am I showing off to people? Right. So now what I do is I still take those pictures. I do those things, but I only share with my dog. He has an Instagram account, and best part about having a dog, whether you're rich or not, they love you anyway. So I still get to share. I still get the feeling of sharing it, but I'm only sharing it with my dog's Instagram account. Anyway.
It's unconditional love. Yeah.
It's unconditional love. I'm telling you, that's the like I have a little tripod and I'll show everybody. She's sitting on the bed. It's a little messy. But the one thing I've learned about honestly having a pet, and my pet specifically, and this is maybe Federico why you and I get along. We rescued her from Mexico. She was two really bad car accidents, so she doesn't have a front arm. She's a tripod. And anytime I have a honestly an upsetting moment, I cannot tell you how often this freaking dog, I'm working, I'm like, I lost the deal, I did this, like something happens, and she just comes and like just puts her freaking head on my paw, like she just knows, right? She's just there as a loyal. And I'm like, okay, maybe it's time that she wants to go on a walk, and we go on a walk, and she's sprinting, and she doesn't have a front arm, and I'm like, if she can overcome that, I can overcome anything, right? So it's been an absolute blessing to have a pet as well for anyone at least listening. Anyway,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that the difference between humans and dogs is that we don't live the moment, right? They have
100%.
such a short, lifespan. You live for a day or whatever, you go to the office, and then you come back at the evening, and then for a dog that's a week, right?
Yeah,
So they live every single moment like it's the last one, right?
100%. But it's the thing I've learned is just the sheer loyalty that you can have, right? So like for anyone that knows, is like it's my biggest strength. It's also my biggest weakness. I am incredibly loyal. Like it's to a fault, right? Like I've worked with the same group of people for probably 10 plus years now, right? Like um and there's benefits to that, there's sads, but like the one thing I've learned is like when dogs, like that unconditional love, I think goes so far with humans as well. So anyway.
Yeah, and they're always there when we're feeling down,
Yeah,
depressed, blue,
100%.
you know, yeah,
and
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 they
that's
feel
the
it.
purpose, right?
They
And they feel it,
they
and that's
sense
the
it. Yeah.
you gotta be that for your colleagues, your coworkers. Like it's so easy right now, especially in our world, right, of tech. Like you hear about layoffs, this and that. I'm not trying to downsize it. I want to be empathetic, I want to be sympathetic, but I want to be the person that empowers people, right? I want to be the person, like I talked about this earlier, the 12 people I helped earlier this month and on a consistent basis that are looking for work here and there. They're getting rejection after rejection, right? Which means they're probably feeling down, the self confidence that is not there. I cannot tell you how often I've told someone, snap the fuck out of it. You are talented, you're amazing, and you have to remind them of like the successes they've had. And frankly, I've learned that from having a dog, right? Like sometimes they just come and remind you and love you no matter what good or bad you've done because they don't care, right? And if anyone's listening to this, like that's the one thing I want anyone to get out of it. Like in this world of like, shit and bad news and everyone like having a war and bringing and tearing each other down. Be the person that brings some light and some joy and some empowerment to everybody else.
I I read a story about a guy. I don't remember his name, so I apologize. But he started an OnlyFans account, right? Um,
I didn't know where this was going, but it's an OnlyFans account.
I little with that, you know. It's so what he did is he started like encouraging, you know, young women, you know, saying, you know, you can make it, you know, uh, you're beautiful, strong, powerful, you know. um, I'm paraphrasing, you know, but uh, all of his videos were about that, right? And he started having a lot of, and he started that more as a joke than, you know, a real thing, right? But then, you know, it became really quite popular, right? Right, a lot of women start following him because of that, right? And it's what you're talking about, right? It's, you know, giving forward that encouragement, right?
100%. It's look, one of my favorite books is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. It was written like 70 years ago. It's an easy read. It's literally one of my favorite books, and I go back to it once a year. And one of the things I learned in that book, it's like I think it's lesson number one or lesson number two, is
This one,
yeah,
but
there
it's in
you
Spanish. Yeah.
go. Exactly. Even better. But say it. What's in Spanish? I'm sure you'll
It's
have
in
some
Spanish,
colleagues.
yes.
It's in every language. They even have it in Persian, which I didn't even know. But
Oh,
the
really? Interesting.
yeah, it's like, and I would be shocked if it's not in every language because it's been so popular. But the point I'm trying to make, one of his first lessons is we all want to be acknowledged. We all want to be acknowledged, right? So I still to this day remember that. Like if someone's on the other end, if you've messed up, if you've dropped the ball on something, like the other person's angry, and frankly, they just want to be heard, right? They just want you to know that, like, hey, uh, the other person's acknowledging you and empowering you. So anyway,
So we were talking about your school, how you know how that shaped your career and your life.
I loved going to Chapman. So Chapman was very good to me. I was there 3 years. And I was very involved. Like I during the day, I actually worked for a company where I did sales. I did inside sales, like we call it the SDR, sales development role now. Like back then, they just literally called it inside sales. And at night or in the evening or in between, like the days where they allowed me to, I would go to class. And I was still like very much involved. I was in two fraternities. Like I still got the opportunity to do a college experience and had an absolute blast. But when you're in college, you're just like, you don't know. You're like, hey, I want to be a politician, this and that. Like, you're like, you're so focused on like getting good grades and just getting your degree. It's like, it's the thing I kind of look back that I wish I did more of is I wish I viewed it as a journey and not a destination. Meaning, um, the way it worked is my scholarship was only for 3 years. So I was like, I was trying to basically condense 4 years of college, which is the standard normal way, down to three, right? So I was so focused of just like getting my degree that I was looking for that destination that I really wish I focused on it more as a journey and like peeled back the onion and like figured out more about myself, more about like what kind of things I want to do. And what's funny about this is I got the degree and I went to DC. I go to Washington D.C. because that's usually where most opportunities in poli sci are in politics. I lasted a full 3 months. I hated it. I hated it. Like, so if anyone's listening to this, you're young enough, the best way to know if you like something or not, go experience it. And right away, sometimes you have that gut feeling, you're like, I don't want anything to do with it, and we can talk about why I didn't like it. But um, sometimes you're like, it could be the that role or that person or that management. So like, go try. So when I was in DC, I tried three different jobs, hated every single one of them. And the reason I didn't like it is the way the incentives work in politics, at least in DC, is the person that's your friend or your colleague to your right has the incentive not to help you in some cases because that's how promotions happen, right? Like it's the upward mobility. So there was so much of this like backstabbing and misalignment that I was like, it's just not my culture, right? I want to go somewhere where everyone works together, we solve a problem, like people are reasonable when there's drama. So I've been very, very fortunate to find that now in my current role. But the lesson there is rather than wasting 3 years, 4 years on something and looking at a destination because society or something tells you to do it, it's okay not to know and take a step back. And at least for me, whatever your learning style is, pick on that. I learned through experiences. So my biggest suggestion to anyone that's listening is go do more professional real life examples, real experiences, because at least that's the best way I learned about what you want to do for the next 5, 10, 20 years.
Right, and develop a vision, right? Because that way you know where you want to go, right?
Yeah,
And it's
100%.
okay if the vision doesn't
It can
you
change,
it,
right?
it can
It's
change, right? Yeah,
there's a
because
very
your perspective of the world changes.
100%. I did this I did this training. I forgot where I did it. But the trainer was a Marine. And he's like, we have this famous saying in the Marines, which is, we're going to get to that top of the hill. I don't care how you get there. We just have to get there. Right. And the analogy he used is, and it was just one of these hills where like some people could take the stairs, some people could go around. Um, like the fastest way to go is not take the stairs, but some people were really really big, so they had to take the stairs. It took a little it took a little slower. Whereas if you went around, as long as you were willing to run, you would like beat everyone by like 5-10 minutes. You would like get there in half as much time. And the analogy, which is a really good one in life, is um, and I'm at that age where like there's different people going through different things. Like I got married, I have a house, but someone else may not have that experience, right? Maybe they don't have that privilege or that opportunity, and they freak out, and it's like, hey, it's okay. Like you'll get there. Maybe 2 years, 3 years later, but you'll get there. So sometimes I've learned like you're on your own timeline. It's okay. Age is just a number. Don't put too much freaking pressure on yourself. At some point you'll get there, right? Like I think we've become very very freaking short-sighted, whereas the one thing I've learned is like take a step back and look at things as like in years and decades if you have a vision, and just keep pushing and be patient and put in the hard work, and it'll pay out.
One of the I don't remember who said this. I remember the things, but I don't remember who did it. So anyway, this definition of happiness, right? So this definition of happiness is, you have a mountain, you have a top of mountain, right? And then the happiness is walking towards that mountain, right? It's not reaching it, right? It's not planning to go there, right? Which is something that that you do, or you say, oh, once I reach this goal or whatever, right? Once I do this, then I'm going to be happy, right? And you're miserable throughout it, right? So this concept of the happiness is going towards something that has significant meaning to you, right?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. um but it's sometimes happiness could just I my version of happiness is just having really freaking low expectations, so you're always happy. Right? So you know just being that, like, just focusing on what you can control, and whatever else happens, like, screw it. So anyway, like I really like I like the Spanish model. Like I don't know if you've ever been to Spain. Like I remember one time I went there, I was so stressed. Like I went during a time where I was still working in the US, so it's like local time was like 10 p.m. I'm like still working. These folks are like, going out for dinner and all smiles, and there was no freaking stress at all. So, live like the Spaniards, life will be okay. So, anyway.
Right. Well, something similar happens in Mexico. Like every time you go out to the city, there's a party in every, in every, in every block of the city, right?
Yeah.
And people are so friendly. There's it's not perfect, but you have insecurity, you have a lot of issues, but still, everywhere you go, people are happy. They're very, you go to small rural towns and they're very, they treat you well. They feed you well, right? They make sure that that you're well taken care of, right? So, and and then, you know I'm very grateful when they do that, right? And they're sometimes they live with very little, right? They don't have much, right?
Yeah,
And you see people are happy. Of course they have, like they're they want to do more, they want to make more money, whatever. But still they have this warmth, right? That it's not
100%.
always work, 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 and this whoever's the fittest survives, right?
Yeah, 100%. Um, it's it's one of the reasons I want to come visit you in Guadalajara, my friend. So it's gonna happen one of these days.
It is going to be fun. Yes, yes,
We'll have a good time. You'll show me how the locals live.
yes, yes. The You mentioned something about trying to take you know uh, these photos of all the places when you go with the family and such. We went camping last week, and we try to go camping every weekend or so. And the best times is when we don't get them on camera, right?
Yeah,
The reason for
100%.
that is because we're doing something. Either it's a challenge that we have to overcome. We go off road, and then we have to go around a boulder or whatever, right? And somebody's about to roll over, right? So or we got stuck in the middle of the night, right? So and you're kind of suffering because of the situation. You're trying to
Yeah,
go through that, right? But then you remember it with love. It's like, hey, we overcome the situation, or we
whatever it
drop
may
the
be.
water. Right now we don't have water, and we have to rely on everybody else on the group to give us water, right?
Yeah,
And that's something that you don't get on the camera, right?
100%. I miss the days of not having it. So I got my iPhone really late. Like I got my smartphone very very late. I think I was 22. So this is like 2000. This is like a few years after college, so it's like way later than most people did. And I look back and I was like so glad, like I was the phone that was the kid that had a flip phone till like very very late. And I look back with a lot of joy. Like it was fun not to be addicted to your phone, which is the opposite now. Like it's real. It's like it's real and it's true. And I I have a really freaking hard time sometimes, not like I'll be there like watching a movie on a Sunday with my wife, and I'm like consistently looking at my phone, like like it's just this
Yeah,
freaking,
we have this addiction. Yeah. So
So
we go camping to places where you don't have any cell phone signal, right?
I love that.
And then everybody's enjoying the moment, right?
Yeah,
And then after a while we got a Starlink, right? So the moment that we turn on the Starlink, you can see the dynamic how it changes because everybody's on their phone, like
yeah.
uploading, checking something, and yeah, yeah,
It's we think we're missing out on something, but like the real joy is just right in front of you. But I will tell you, the one time I was really happy is during our honeymoon. We went somewhere for 2 weeks, and we didn't have a big wedding, so we decided to put most of our money towards the honeymoon instead. And during that 2 weeks, I did not take my phone, I did not take my laptop. I was just like, I'm gonna be with my wife, so if there's anything urgent, she would let me know, right? Like I would be there. And I gotta tell you, I just felt like a different human when I came back. I was so freaking energized. I was so pumped. And you know what? I look back, those 2 weeks, nothing happened. Like nothing at all. Like life was completely okay without me. So there's a life lesson in there somewhere. To say the least.
right, right. Yeah, we feel that we are so indispensable for the world to continue moving forward,
100%.
right?
Yeah,
And
100%.
we're
We think
not that. Yeah, that.
no, we're replaceable, right? Like, let's be real. We're all replaceable at
Yes.
some point, and that's the beauty of life, right? It puts our ego in check. So, anyway,
Right. Right. Yeah. I have some similar feeling when I go out camping, and we see these huge, huge, things, like we went to the Grand Canyon, right? And then you feel so small, you know uh, even though we have a lot of technology and whatnot, you realize, oh, you're such a you're an ant in the world, right?
Yeah,
um,
100%.
so I wanted to ask you about your coaching and advisory roles. Can you share a success story?
Can I share a success story? Uh, um, man, there's too many. I'm just trying to see which one. There's a couple I really want to, but it's confidential. So it will when it goes public, I'll come back and I'll be like, I should have probably shared this one, but it's not public yet. But
Right.
look, the type of consulting advisory work I do is I only take on projects where I know I can help. And if I can't help, or if someone really wants to work with me, I set very, very proper expectations. I think I'm overly reasonable, and I love what I do. Like I really love the problems, I love the challenges. But I'll name a couple of successes that just come to mind. One is honestly working with you guys, right? Like I've been so fortunate to work with you, with Joel, and it's just so fun that you're like, hey, this person actually is investing in my ideas and like our collaboration and our suggestion. We've been working for what, 8 weeks or something now, and it's just been so fun. Like I was telling literally my wife yesterday, I was like, we've been doing this work for 8 weeks, and I'm like, I was like getting frustrated. I'm like, I'm not really seeing if I'm helping these guys. Am I not? And then you showed me, you're like, I've been doing this, and I'm like, holy cow! Like they're crushing it. Like we're well ahead of the ball game. So there's like successes like that, um but to give some context, there's basically three or four categories in this changes. One category of how I help people is I literally help put on events. And there's two events I do: Play to Elevate, where we met, and the other one is the Knowledge Graph Conference. And I specifically, at least for this year, picked those because it's niche, it's small, and the main thing I wanted for both of those is when I signed the deal, I said, look, I want to help you. I want full permission to do what's right for the client if I need to. We mess up, we got to give them a happy hour. We got to do things that make up. And I used to be a part of organizations where I didn't have that, and it was so embarrassing because when you commit to someone, you want to go above and beyond, right? You want to make sure they have a good experience. You want to keep working with them. So, what's crazy about this? The other 4 or 5 clients about this that I have, every single one of them, every single one inbounded to me about wanting to work with my advisory work. Every single one, including you. So I guess I'll throw the question back to you, right? Because I'm just curious, and frankly, like it's an ego stroke for me in a way. But I'm just like, it'd be nice. Is like, why? Like, I guess, like, why did you want to work with me, right? Like, what did you enjoy in the process of us working together at Play to Elevate last year?
Right. So let's see. First, I enjoy working with you. When we did Plateau Leve 2023, we were sponsors, and you know, and I saw you going above and beyond. I remember, we had we did a raffle, right? That you say, hey guys, we have this raffle. Do you want to participate? And so those type of things, that we were not expecting it, so that was nice, right? Um, so that was one thing, right? Like, the warmth of you, and then the going above and beyond, um, which was above what was committed, right? So that was nice, right? Um, so those were the two things that strike me the most, right? And then when we start talking a little bit about working together, you setting real expectation, that for me was something important, because that allow us to figure it out together, right? If it works, it works. It doesn't, it doesn't, right? But at least we have that conversation, right? um So yeah, and then we start doing, we start following your suggestions, your proposals, and it gave us like this clarity of what we need to do next, right? And reassurance that we are on the right path, right? Which is sometimes difficult to see. There's so much inertia on the systems that it takes a while to see the results, right? So that reassurance that we're on the right track, that has been really really helpful, right? Because you know you don't know which effort yields more results until it does, right?
Yeah,
So
100%. Yeah.
so
So
yeah.
my big thing is the thing I've learned about just consulting and advisory work, whatever you want to call it, is I. I've gone away from like this BS of like charging someone, like meaning I genuinely like deep down inside I really want when someone pays me, they in return know that I've done everything in my power to earn those dollars, right? And if I haven't, like, I make it very clear, like I don't do any more contracts anymore, right? Like I have a one-page agreement, but it literally says you can fire me at any time. Literally, anyone that works with me can fire me at any time. Nobody does that. And on the sponsorship front, like for some small companies like Knowledge Graph, they're tiny. They don't even have a budget. It's a side hustle, side event. I'm 100% performance based. Nobody does that, right? But it aligns the incentives, right? So to answer your question, yesterday I was literally with a founder that's become a close friend, very, very similar to you. I care about them. I enjoy them. They're reasonable. I'm reasonable. And we were having happy hour. We discussed about, his sales challenges, go to market challenges. And right away it clicked. I'm like, dude, I know exactly how to help you. The only issue is I don't have that much bandwidth right now. Right. And he's like, well, we're looking to hire this person. And he's a technical founder. And I'm like, look, I need to interview this person just for your own freaking benefit. I've seen enough of these cycles. I've been a first time founding AE at like 10 different companies. Whoever you hire, I will interview them for free. I don't even care. Then we got um talking with the candidate. I'm like, this person might not be, like, they could be, but I'm like, I need more. I want to know who else is out there before we go forward with this person. I don't have enough data points. And I made a post on LinkedIn. I'm like, hey, this person's looking for this good opportunity. It has its risks, but like, let's chat. I've had about 8 people reach out that I'm connecting with. Guess how much this person's paying me for all this work that I've done?
um Well, you mentioned you didn't charge him, right?
Zero, like nothing, right? So the reason I bring that up is like, it's like, who cares? Like, let's just help the kid, right? Let's just help good people bring it forward. And what ends up happening 9 out of 10 times is we end up working together, short term, long term, like something along the lines, right? I know at some point I'll get the benefit in return in a different direction. So um trust me, I like money. I want to be compensated. It motivates me to keep working with people, right? Like, I believe in that free market principle of like, let's reward good behavior, good incentives, because otherwise, like, why, it's going to piss me off if I'm doing, like, if I'm not getting rewarded, someone else's. But I also believe in this like behavior of like, let's just pay it forward and it will pay back dividends. And if someone can afford it, great. If not, like, hopefully one day when they need me, I can ask for that favor. So I've learned to balance wanting to frankly be transactional with like doing right by people. And fortunately, knock on wood, it's worked out because, again, I'm telling you right now, for the last probably 6 7 years, I've not had to submit for a job or a resume or any of that. It's been like, I've been working with the same people, including Plato. Like, those two founders, I've worked with them. My wife jokes that I've had 8 first days with those guys. Like, I've literally had 8 different stints with those guys. And I was looking back because I got asked recently. They're like, someone asked me, "Can you send me the agreement you have with Plato?" I'm like, "What do you mean the agreement?" They're like, "The agreement, like your consulting advisory agreement." I'm like, "We don't. It was a handshake." It was literally a handshake, right? And it's worked for 8 years. So anyway, that's my long-winded answer of you got going about success, because I don't think about it, right? It becomes natural about just some of the values I believe in.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of attitudes, transactional attitudes in the market, right? And they look for the quid pro quo almost immediately, right? And and the eventually the people that I end up working with, they they don't have that attitude, right?
And
So
good luck, right? Because you're
yeah.
taking all the risk and they're not. So anyway, it's and to be fair, by no means am I saying like I don't have that principle, but it's a little different when, like for example, you and others, right? Like the folks that have inbounded for me to work. At some point, like you also trusted me, right? Like so I really like when someone buys something from me, like I want to go above and beyond for them, right? Especially the little guys. Like most companies I work for are like tiny little startups, right? Like it makes a difference. Not saying the bigger companies I don't care about, but like frankly, if I drop the ball on Google or Microsoft, right? Yeah, I feel bad, they feel bad, but they'll be okay, right? That's not the case with the little guys. Like, there's a little more pressure to deliver. So anyway,
They have so little runway, right? One
yeah,
mistake can destroy the company, basically, right?
100%. 100%. So you really have to be on top of it.
Right. They are in this fight or flight mode, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. I've been there, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
we're a little bit more stable now, but yeah,
No,
it's
it's
been an
hard.
interesting
But
journey. Yeah.
but that's like that proves my point, right? Like you and I talk about this all the time. You guys are amazing, right? Like I've worked with you. Density Labs, the company you run, like right, provides a lot of value, great quality. You've helped your buyers get promoted multiple times. Like it's been pretty amazing and awesome to see. But at the end of the day, in order for you to add value at some point, right? Everyone says the same thing. So you got to just put in the work. Like I don't know how else to do it, right? Like you told me this. I was like, "How did you get your first two clients?" You're like, just hustle. I'm like, "What the heck does that mean?" You're like, "I literally I went and applied for the job and I coded and then I told them, "Hey, I can hire the next person and the next person." And I love that, right? Like and the thing I will tell you in tech right now, a lot of people are hurting. Like 2023 to 24, it's been hard. I don't care who you are. It's been harder to sell in my opinion the last 2 years than it's been in a long time, right? And we forget, it's so hard for us to forget and have that mindset that like, hey, let's just go back to the drawing board. Like it's time to be scrappy again. It's time to be it's time to be like it's time to be like it's time to come up with like new creative ways. It's time to hustle a little more. It's time to go back to the basics. And frankly, I think it's awesome because the people that work hard, they put in the work, they're patient, they take care of their customers. I promise you they're going to win, and that includes you guys at Density Labs. I'm willing to bet on it.
Don't put the ego on top of it, and just do the hard
That's too
things,
hard.
right?
My,
Yeah,
my
yeah.
ego is too big, so that's that's hard to do.
Well, I've seen people that they have this attitude saying, "Oh, this work is beneath me," right? And
Oh my god. So I'm doing a happy hour for this freaking client, and it was me, this other person, because I love putting on event. Like that's my like what I'm really good at, and you got to play to your strengths, right? Like is I'm very good at in-person interactions. Like that's just where I shine. I enjoy it. It comes naturally. I love meeting people. I'd love to hear their story. So we're putting on this freaking dinner in Austin for a group, and this very successful, let's call it LinkedIn influencer, decided to participate with us. And we're like inviting people. He got like two or three people to come, and he CCs me, and I don't even work for this person. We just decided like, hey, let's split the cost. You bring 10 people, I'll bring 10 people. When someone says yes, they CC'd me saying, hey, this person will send you the invite. And if you have any details, ask this person. And I'm like, bro, like we're doing the same thing. Like why would I be the one inviting this person to the calendar invite, like answering their 50 questions about this dinner when it's your responsibility, right? So and I realize what it is. It's like he's amazing at giving orders and he's a LinkedIn influencer and he's been doing it for 10, 15 years, but he hasn't like had to actually do the grunt work, right? And what ends up happening is it works for a lot of people and I respect it, but as soon as your company doesn't do as well in growth rates, they have a really, really, really hard time adjusting back to the fundamentals, right? So I've learned not to, to not don't be too far away from the hard work, the grunt. So anyway,
Yeah, yeah. I've done I've done work at nights and coding at odd
100%.
hours and doing 80 hour work weeks. And I'm not afraid to do work, right? Um, and doing the hard things. I train. I don't take shortcuts basically, right? And the and one of the things that has been a strong motivator for me lately is the people, right? Once you start having employees, you start caring more about them, right? Like, so it's I can just work weekends. I don't care as long as my team is taken care of,
Settled.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
Right, right.
100%. Um, and that's the hard part, right? Like the hard part is like doing that consistently, putting the hard work. Also, that pressure, right? That you have others that are dependent on you. It gets to you. Like it's really like the hardest thing I will tell you about consulting advisory work for what I do is exactly that. Like like 2 3 days ago there was some stress going on with one of the clients, and again I'm like I'm the sales guy for 6 different companies. Think about that. That's a lot. Most people struggle with one quota. Imagine having 6 or 7 that are dependent on you. It's a lot of freaking pressure. And I literally woke up freaking out 3 days ago. I'm like, oh my god, how are we going to hit our number, like blah blah blah. And that's a good stress. And what I've learned is, like, in those moments, fucking don't, like, it's most people it's flight or fight. Like go in like a freaking horn, go towards the stress and see what you can control. And 3 days later we're in a great shape. There's 3 deals I was counting on, all 3 came in, right? So um the point I'm trying to make is, like, sometimes that pressure, like, we try hiding from it. We want to, and trust me, I've learned this the hard way. When COVID hit, I used to 100% of my income was event sponsorship. Think about that. And
you,
overnight, the industry went
you
to
had
zero.
zero.
Zero, like literally zero. It took me, no joke, probably 4 weeks, 4 weeks to get back to normal. I had a hard time getting out of bed. Literally, I used to wake up, my wife used to go to work. I would not get out of bed until 11 or 11:30. So I've learned mental health, depression, all that is really freaking real. Like, a lot of people say, but I've also learned, just because things get hard and you have stress, like, fuck no, don't go into the give up mode. Like that's a good thing, right? Push through, and like you just need momentum, right? You just need momentum. Like the one thing I've learned is that, like, create momentum wherever you can. And momentum can be like, it's a game changer. Like, what I mean by that is, it could be as easy as, like, go on a walk. You go on a walk, then the next day you send that email. Like, it just, those little habits do make a difference. So anyway.
And yeah, the resilience, like being able to go through, it's different, like when you're depressed and when you have a shitty life, right?
100%.
um,
a
so
hundred percent.
if you start building a good life, you have friends, you have a partner, you have your habits, then all of that builds your resilience, to go through difficult moments, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
that doesn't mean that they're going to be less painful, or but it gives you that, as you said, momentum, right? From within, and then to the business process, right?
100%. So you absolutely nailed it in terms of that, to say the least.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry to hear about that, how COVID you know
No,
affect you.
look, look, it's been 4 years, right? And I there was a this past week there was a very famous, like, thing that's become really famous, which is the CEO of Nvidia, and he was speaking at Stanford. I don't know if you followed it. And one of the things he said is, I really hope you people have suffering. Like, I hope you go through hard times, right? And going back to our earlier point about high school, right? Why I was angry is, I was angry because it, I remember specifically, like, if I wanted to go to prom, or if I wanted to go to, like, a high school dance, the only way I could pay for those things is if I had extra income. And in order to have extra income, I had to work during the summers, right? And while everyone else got to go to the beach or Hawaii, or do things that were more fun, I didn't have those let's call it privileged opportunities, right? So I was like angry as a result. But you know what? I look back, huge gamer, huge game changer. Like it taught me about work ethic. It taught me about hard work. It taught me about waking up early. It taught me about the most important thing it honestly, frankly, taught me was sales, because I learned how to freaking sell ink during those summers and printers and everything. And like to this day, I look back, I'm like, I got some of my fundamental trainings when I was 15, 16, 17, right? And all of that frankly came because my parents, like as much as I love them, like they didn't have the opportunity, to support me for these like side ancillary things that I think every kid should go through, right? So anyway.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that the being an immigrant puts you in this situation where you have to go, you have to hustle through life
100%.
basically, right?
Yeah.
And it and those hard times, make you more resilient, right? To
100%.
um, whatever happened, the reassurance of whatever happens, I'm going to be able to go through, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to be, pretty. It's not going to be fun, but
You
I'm
just
going
have
to
to
go
push
through it,
through.
right?
Yeah, you just have to push through it, to say the least. So
Yeah, yeah.
anyway.
And I have from my family, they were very supportive, but they didn't come from they don't come from a, with a lot of income, right? So
Sure.
they don't have the actually they, instead of you know giving me money, I will be giving them money, right? So
So that's the case for me. To this day, I support my parents, right? My siblings and I literally we support their rent, we support everything. But I will tell you the one thing which is a little different is yes, we had some tough, but at some point we had a lot, right? Like in Iran, I remember like we had chauffeurs, we had drivers, like we were very, very affluent. So I actually think it's a little more challenging when you have something and you lose it all. that's like that's that is really hard. So like that when I tell you like my parents had a hard time adjusting, it's because my dad just he really had a hard time going from the top of the hill to the bottom of the hill, right? And frankly, it's really really hard. But I remember like I look back sometimes in my high school, middle school years, and I said if I ever fall into that category, the only thing you got to do is just stand the fuck back, right? So like when you're down, it sometimes it's so freaking hard. It's easier said than done, but I'm telling you, like whatever you do, you just get back up, and it's all about how quickly you can, how quickly you can bounce back.
and the and I think that with resilience you can achieve anything, right?
Yeah,
It, it's um it's a balance between stubbornness and sensitivity, right?
a hundred
because
percent.
because you have to be stubborn to keep pushing towards whatever it is that you're trying to do, right? But then sensitivity to hear what is going on, because if you're pushing in the wrong direction, you know um, you better learn that quickly, right? And make adjustments as quickly as possible, right?
Yeah, a
um,
100%, 100% to say the
yeah,
least.
I used to have some friends that they would be more a hedonist type. They would leave the moment. They would just you know don't have any um, they didn't want to grow in any meaningful way, right? They would just want to live the life, complain about the work, the job, and work as little as possible, right? And enjoy as much as possible, right? um,
Just not a bad way
and
to go, but just move to a different, cheaper place where that where you have that privilege. So anyway.
Yeah, but the thing is, I wanted to do more, right? So when I start like sharing, I want to do more, I want to do this, I want to do that, they would say, what's the point,
Yeah.
it's
What's the
uh,
yeah. Anyway.
right. So the that's the type of things that you have to ignore to keep pushing forward,
hundred
right?
percent. And in those environments, what I've learned is go pick new environments. Right? You have to. Like you have to go. Like you just have to change that mindset. Right? So um Like the group I'm friends with now, like they're a bunch of engineering leaders, and every single one of them makes 10 times more than I do, right? Um, but they still have fun. They still work hard, right? And we have a great time every time we see each other. But I've learned like it's important to have that, and not that I don't want to work with my previous friends, but I've learned like to keep it to a limit, right? Like stay in touch. Maybe we see each other here and there, but like I don't want them to bring me down, right? Because I do believe the network and the people that you get advice from, they make a huge difference as well. So anyway,
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, the and that's why they're not no longer my friends. They're more of acquaintance, I guess.
we've moved
Yeah.
on, to say the least, is what you're saying.
Yes, yes, yes. Um, Great. So we've been we've been over for a while. We should wrap up. So we before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you one last question.
Sure.
Um, what is your advice for aspiring tech sales professionals that they want to achieve sales leadership roles? What advice would you give them?
When it comes to these things, I think it's really important to give context of what's worked for me, because it could be different, right? Like sometimes I think giving advice, like that's a really good one right there. Like giving advice without context is very dangerous. Like I never work with people unless I have context on their business, what's going on, because what works for one client does not work for another client, right? So my point in all of this is I think you have to have good awareness, right? And like awareness of where you want to be, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and playing for those, right? And offsetting the ones that you don't want to play for. So, um, so like I think that's somewhat important. Like just I know what ticks me. So like I've learned the hard way. Like I can never work for a big company anymore. I used to work at Oracle. I hated it. I worked for a client that got acquired by Dolby. I hated it. Like, and it's not because of the people or anything. It's just it's not like I'm too impatient, right? So what I mean by awareness is you really have to know what motivates you. Like I'm impatient. I love creativity. I get bored really easily, and I've had to learn those things, the hard way. So one of the reasons I pick this little consulting thing and I like working with different clients is it always like my brain's always engaged, right? When one problem is happening somewhere else and I have a shitty day, that somewhere else I'm doing good, right? Like so it's a really 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 nice balance from that perspective. So what I mean by awareness is like you really have to like know what you want, and I think you can only do that by having experiences and seeing what you like, but you have to document, and you have to have the freaking courage, I think, to take a leap. So I think that's frankly one. Two, if you're doing any sales, it becomes so much freaking easier when you believe in it. It becomes again so much easier when you believe in it, right? So the reason I love selling Play-Doh and Knowledge Graph and these other things is because I believe in it, right? If I didn't believe in it, I think it becomes really, really freaking tough, right? So I think that's the second thing. And then the third thing, it's funny we're talking about the selling game here. One of the things I've learned over the years, you want to be in the renewal game. And what I mean by that is you want to go above and beyond. You want to provide such a good experience that people come to you. It becomes so much easier, right? So I'm just very grateful I've had the opportunity to work with not only amazing clients, but clients that were customers that became like partners or colleagues or coworkers, right? So I think it's a combination of those things. And then the last one is, which I think is the most important one, frankly, in at least in my humble opinion, is just do the right thing for the client. I've learned I wasn't like this before, and I've learned the hard way. And frankly, I've been fortunate to have some runway, right? Where now I do not. I'm telling you, I do not. I care about money, but I don't care about money like I used to have this mindset. I want to be a billionaire or this, and then it's like, why? Like, what difference does it make if, frankly, if I have 10 million in the bank versus 25 versus a billion? Yes, I buy more property or whatever, but like. I've now become like, as long as I'm putting food on the table, I'm enjoying it. I'm trying to optimize for happiness. And when you're happy, I'm telling you, man, there's something said about like everything else becomes so much easier. So, my point about that story is I've been in roles where I was making so much money. Like the last 2 years, I probably made 3 to 4 more times than I'm making now, like in terms of income. Like it was incredible, like really good run, great rushes, but I was miserable. I was so unhappy. And now it's the opposite. I'm making so much less, but I'm so much happy. Like I'm so much engaged. And there's something to say about when you're engaged and when you're happy.
Right.
Like it's a different ball game. So put yourself, if you can, in situations where even if you make a little less money, you enjoy waking up. Like now I'm telling you, I look forward to every Monday. Like, let's go. Like, like weekends, what are weekends? Let's work, So anyway, those are just
Yeah.
some like high level like things that have worked in my experience.
Right. The weight, becomes insignificant, right? When you're
Significant,
happy. Yeah.
insignificant. And I'm telling you, the biggest thing is, and I've learned this the hard way, people either give you energy or they take away energy from you. So if I can't be around people that take energy away from me. Like I can't stand it. I don't like it. So I've just learned, trim those people, cut those people. It's just not fun. So anyway,
Right. So now your job become a hobby that pays you.
yeah, exactly. Right. What is a job? What? This is a job? No way. So anyway, but all of that said, just to be very transparent, I'm making it sound like a romantic. It's freaking hard. Like I was catching up with something. I'm like, I cannot tell you how hard it is right now to sell event sponsorships. Like, I wish I could. It's just the market, like at least on what I'm selling to. Like, I wish it was easier. I think what I'm selling, and you question yourself. I'm telling you, you freaking question yourself. I have had more fear and doubt. I told you this like 2 days ago. I wasn't stressed, but I just couldn't sleep. I'm like, how the hell are we going to hit your number? I was just sitting in my bed at like 3 in the morning, like, how am I going to hit my number and thinking about it? And in those circumstances, what I've learned is put the freaking whatever you have to away and just go and recharge, re-energize. Like it could be a workout, it could be a walk, it could be with the dog, and sometimes, frankly, you just got to talk to someone, right? It could be a freaking parent, it could be a counselor, it could be a mentor, it could be like someone you can just go vent to that can calm your freaking nerves, right? And one of the reasons, honestly, between us, I love in person events is I get to vent. I tell people I'm very vulnerable. I'm like, it's been fucking shit. It's been really hard selling anything, right? And you know what's nice? They tell me the same thing. I'm like, okay, I'm not alone. We're in this together. So, anyway.
If it's hard for everybody, then we're in the right direction, I guess. Right.
I will tell you, like, it's a balance. Like I don't think it's really important not to compare yourself to other people, but it is important to connect with other people just to see what they're seeing, and if something is working for them, like holy cow, like why, like finding it out and adjusting. With all of that said, the one thing I've learned in terms of people I work with, founders and whatever, I love working for people that are real. I was recently just talking to a founder like 2 months ago. I'm like, how are you? What's new? The dude's just telling me, like, oh my God, it's going great. My business is growing. We're hiring this. I just found out 2 weeks ago they're shutting down. It's like, dude, come on, like it's okay, be vulnerable, like you don't need to be embarrassed, like so I'm a huge fan of celebrating people being vulnerable within reason, right? I love working with people that don't BS, they tell it like it is. And by the way, I'm not saying don't market, I'm not telling you like, but if you have someone you really trust and you can like, like they're asking you because they want to help you, you got to be real. Like, tell the freaking truth of how things are going because otherwise, I don't know how I can help you. Right. So, anyway,
Well, they own, those type of people. They own the fake it till you make it kind of thing, right?
agreed. But what I'm here to tell you is it will break you. It's too freaking hard. It's too challenging. It's too freaking hard. Like, like I talked to this founder yesterday and I loved it. He's like, "Look, I'm having a really hard time because the last time we got a new logo was back in September, right?" I'm like, "Okay." I peel back the onion. I'm like, "Why?" Like, but I could only help him because he was honest. He was truthful. I cannot tell you how often I've seen the other side, whether it's an ego play or something else. They portray things in a lens that it's like, Yeah, it's kind of half true, but like you peel back the onion, it's bogus, right? And I've learned those are very dangerous people to work with because the ego's too high, right? The ego and the pride is way too high. So anyway,
And you have to walk. It's like walking on eggshell. You have to walk
it's
very carefully. Yeah.
100%. So anyway,
And that's where the fun. That's when it's not no longer fun to work with those type of folks, right?
100%. Yeah.
Right. So I thank you very much, Poya, for joining us on this episode. I really appreciate it. Um, and I'm looking forward to continue working together, talking more.
No,
There's a lot of things to do. Yeah.
look, I'm grateful to you, right? Like, you're running with it. You're having fun. You treat people well. You're reasonable. When you say you're going to do something, you do it. So you've been a great partner to work with. And the funnest part about working with you, frankly, is you're putting yourself outside of your comfort zone. Like even this podcast, like I can tell like you're like enjoying it, you're having fun, but it's pressuring you to get out of your comfort zone, right? Like it's so, and there's something said about that in terms of a lesson, right? Like the way we grow is just putting ourselves out of our comfort zone. And that, frankly, between us, it pumps me up. It's like, fuck, let's go. Like I want to put myself out of my comfort zone, right? So I in return appreciate you, Joel, and the rest of the Density Labs team as well.
Great. Thank you very much, Poya.